Look, let's get to the markets and to the Senate. The Senate failed to pass dueling bills yesterday aimed at ending the partial government shutdown. Now, in its 35th day, the president is calling now for a down payment as well as part of a deal. Airlines are feeling the strain. JetBlue CEO said, quote, "We are close to a tipping point in air travel." Let's get the panel's reaction first, and then I got to see what you think about all of this. Heather Higgins, your reaction.
Well, the first thing I think that people are missing about the shutdown is that the longer it goes on, the more many people are aware of how non-essential a lot of these non-essential workers actually are. The reality is that most people aren't affected by it. The media is driving the story about the 800,000 employees plus the contractors, et cetera. And this has been a failure of messaging on the Trump administration's part because they haven't been able to break through that this is really about getting the border security that people who are border security specialists say they need, not a coast-to-coast wall, but in strategic places. So that is the first thing. You're not seeing that much sympathy among the average American because if you look at the data, the average government worker's compensation is significantly more and arguably up to roughly twice what it is for the average American worker. So, you know, they understand that this is hard times, but this is not the same as losing your job or feeling like you're at risk or something is seriously wrong in your community with opioids and everything else. So there's a political dynamic here that the media isn't quite capturing, which is why I think you're seeing increased support for the wall despite the drumbeat that you're getting all the time.
But it definitely is politics. I feel like they're trying to, well, I don't know that they're trying to come together, but from the war of words, it sounds like maybe they're coming together.
It sounds like maybe they're moving just a bit toward each other tentatively. I mean, you had a few people cross the aisle yesterday. You had, according to reports, you had kind of a somewhat heated Senate Republican lunch where there was some sharp words exchanged. The president's clearly moved a bit in terms of his compromise and talked about willing to have a 3-week temporary bill while they negotiate. There's pressure on the Democratic side as this goes on as well. So who knows when it will end, but the politics is moving things a bit here, clearly.
The lead story, obviously, Dagan's bringing up the unwind. Let's talk about this in terms of the Federal Reserve perhaps pulling back on selling the $50 billion. This is important.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal. It's been very interesting. You know, there's a lot of debate right here, as you've heard this week, about whether the Fed went a little too far late last year with their fourth increase and a little, you know, a lot of talk about Jay Powell where he was at. He's kind of been a little more nuanced in his language. They're going to be out next week. But I think there's a pretty strong sense here that the Fed is really in pause mode to sort of take a measure of the economy and that we probably won't see anything for 6 months is sort of the consensus view here. Which is interesting because I think at the same time, a lot of people feel, despite a certain gloomy mood here, that the U.S. economy is still doing well. Maybe it'll be a little bit slower. It's more, I think, what's the impact of China going to be? What's the impact of Europe going to be this year? So they definitely seem at the Fed to be very much in watch and wait mode right now.